Welcome, everybody. My name is Hannah Jo, and this is the District House. And tonight we are welcoming Shane Norte into the space. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate being here. It's an honor to be here, and thank you everybody for showing up. And I hope we have a good time tonight. And thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from my understanding of your role in the psychedelic space, is that you have many roles in that space, and that you've been on this path, seemingly following your purpose for a while. So, do you want to set us up to better understand who you are in relationship to the psychedelic space?
Yeah, definitely. My name's Shane Norte. I come from Southern California. I'm enrolled in the Morongo Band of Mission Indians, heading out towards like Indio, Palm Springs area. My mother's from La Jolla, the Liseño people, Southern California. We go by the Pale Maquichium, or it means people of the West. And I'm also a board member of Decriminalized Nature. It's just been a beautiful journey. My journey kind of started when my father passed away from cancer in 2018. So in that process, I kind of just went through the whole thing within the church of how they bury people and how they go about the dead and things of that nature. And so I didn't feel kind of right. I didn't feel good as far as just dealing with the cancer of my father and seeing him pass. And then I had some relatives from Oklahoma that they practice with their Native American church. They do peyote. And so I just explained to them, I just lost my father, and it kind of, still kind of sits with me, the pain and all the things that I've been going through. And just asked if they can come out, they can put on a ceremony. And so we set up the ceremony, and we started to pray and go through the ceremony. And it was a beautiful ceremony. And in that time, I saw all different kinds of people that came, whether it was family or just friends of family, or people that wanted to support, or people that were kind of going through their own things as well. And so I noticed in that moment that everybody had their own families. They represented different walks of life, different people of their family. And to see them all praying outside of me, because it was me that wanted the ceremony and needed it for that, but I wasn't the only one hurting and the only one going through things. So it was kind of cool to see everyone kind of come together, not just for myself, but in healing in general, to pray and to heal and to want to get something good out of that medicine. And so at that time, I was just thinking like, man, I need to make this place a space for people, because it's happening right here. I'm seeing all these people come together, and it's beautiful to watch them heal, and then also to support, the role of healing and the aspect of taking medicine and being part of the community that takes medicine. So in that time, fast forward a little more, I ended up going around talking to people, kind of just seeing what's on our tribe. And, if our people did, medicines or Earth Based Sacraments or whatever, whatever people want to call them. But my mother ended up taking me up to the rock, and she's like, I want to show you this rock. She's like, our people been doing plants, different things to help us, whether it was with sickness, death, just a bunch of things she was expressing. So we go up to this rock, and I look at it, and it's cool. There's like mushrooms, there's like the sun. You can see like a whale, because where we're at, you can see the ocean. So it was kind of cool to see, like, kind of like I was told that it's kind of like a directory, like it just explains what's around the area, like things within the vicinity of that rock and that area which you're going to run into. So it's kind of cool to see the mushrooms and everything on there. And then fast forward that a little bit, I ended up getting with Decrim, ended up working in there, getting involved with the community and the people that are within psychedelics and medicine, and just been on the journey ever since, just going around and expressing to people of how people need to get more in tune naturally. And that's kind of just been my mission, outside of going through my own journey, still going through my journey and processing a lot of things, whether it's from my father or just other things, seeing on the reservation, seeing the things that we still currently face as indigenous people, as Native people, even in the psychedelic space, seeing, I guess you could say, the lack and misrepresentation of indigenous people. And so I'm just honored to be part of the good side of bringing good things in and sharing the knowledge of earth-based teachings with people. And so, it's just been a good journey ever since. And I'm honored to be sharing this with people, because I've noticed going through a lot of psychedelic communities, the lack of, the earth and creator is absent the way I see it. Because I can go pay, like I always say, I could pay $5,000+ and go somewhere, and whether it's take synthetic psilocybin or go down to the jungle and take ayahuasca or go here, go there. But one thing, like I said, that I don't see on the headlines of a lot of things is spirit. Connection to spirit. As human beings, I feel it's all of our right. It doesn't matter if you're native or not. It's just I feel like the natives, they didn't forget that. I feel like God's children, they got caught up in what we see now. Cars, electricity, cell phones, TV, politics, war, you name it. But it's like none of that has to do with God, Mother Earth, the Spirit, each other, all of us. We could see in the world, they pit us against each other. They make us argue, they make us fight. So to me, that has nothing to do with Creator and Mother Earth and the wholeness of healing. Because to me, I feel like that is the healing, is being connected and representing that. I was talking to a gentleman earlier, and he was talking about, some ketamine and some different things. And I talked to other people, and they talk about how they don't necessarily feel like anything happened outside of the experience or visuals or this. And that's where I'm getting back to the point of, because there's no spirit, there's no connection to the root. It's like putting someone somewhere and not giving them a route to the land or to the area. They're going to be lost and confused, or it's going to be I always tell people, like a Band-Aid or a quick fix. But when it comes down to the reality, they're going to still feel empty, or they're still going to feel like they're not connected, or just things are going wrong. And I believe that's due to lack of connection to spirit, or like we say, Creator, Mother Earth, and taking care of the earth. I always tell people, you look at a problem on the earth, the mismanagement of the land is not far from that problem, if that makes sense. Like if you look at any issue in the world, it usually has to do with oil, usually has to deal with deforestation, usually has to deal with taking the water. So that's why I say a lot of things that are created, the land dispute or the land destruction or misconnection is not far from any issue in any community. Like you think of a community here, it's like there's a big problem, it's usually because there's not enough water or the air quality or things like that. So that's what I'm trying to get at is, people need to address that and get more connected with that. And so that's kind of what I feel comfortable and happy to be doing, because I've noticed even the big millionaires aren't trying to protect your spirit and promote you need to be connected and help the earth and take care of yourself and those around you. It's like, pay big money, let me get your data, and let me sell it amongst these communities and make money and whatever else comes with that.
Yeah, totally. And so much good stuff was just shared in that. So thank you. I have a couple questions based off of what you've said, and I'm going to lead first by inquiring on your experience with grief. And that's what led you to the medicine. That, from my understanding, is what led you to the ask of being ready to be really hit by spirit in a way that you hadn't necessarily before. And so I just want to hear from you how peyote or other medicine that you've sat with has impacted you specifically in your perspective on grief and how you metabolize that in your system.
Yeah, I think the grief aspect has come from just being indigenous, kind of growing up knowing that, we've always been in a state of pain, pain, a state of distress or misunderstandings, greed, grief, you name it. There's many things, but that's just been it. Like I said, the great grief of my people, I always grew up kind of wondering, like, man, I hear so much about all these different races, getting killed or, exterminated off the face of this earth, but it's like, no one ever talks about the natives. No one ever expresses the genocide and the amount of destruction and chaos that ensued on these lands before a lot of the major wars or civil wars, any of the things we see today. So like I said, I always kind of grew up with that grief, that kind of despair of like, dang, here we are at the bottom of the pool and no one even sees us. You know what I mean? While everyone's out here, hey, help me, we're here, we need to be seen. It's like, we're already at the bottom, skeleton. And I don't mean to laugh at it like that. I just laugh at it because it's real. I really, truly believe that the native indigenous problems were never truly seen or taught to this country. Like they'd never really seen the truth of what really happened on this country. And that's, what I get back to, like I said, with the grief. And then just growing up on the reservations, seeing a lot of, suicide, opioid overdose, and people like drunk crashing, or people like all these things. And because I always tell people Native Americans are the highest of any statistic, because like I said, we're so small. It's not the fact that we're so large, it's just we're so small compared to the mess of, the ethnicities in this country. And so like for me, that's also where it started. Just, by the time I was like 15, already been to like 20 plus funerals, from young to old to middle age. And so, just growing up, seeing that a lot on the reservation, it kind of just, like I said, puts you in that funk. You kind of always see that grief. And I always grew up kind of like wanting to not necessarily redeem that, but just do my part as far as like, here I am, I hope this is enough to show like we're still here and we're still pursuing on the good things of what we got, and not necessarily holding on to that grief or that death, because I've seen causes a lot of issues on the reservation, whether it's like substance abuse or people just angry, people joining gangs, people being distant from families, people not having families. So now with taking the, peyote and, psilocybin, it's helped me seen it for like what it is, because I always tell people like people's concept of death is usually like it's like a read or a see about, but unless you really haven't been around it, it's like no one really truly understands it, or even understands how to communally work through the grief or to work processing the grief. And so with these medicines, it helped me to internalize the grief and see it beyond like poor me, or, why this or why that. It was just more like, these things happen, and there's nothing that I could do, even if I wanted to, like even if I wanted to bring all the ones I love back, or it's like, so for me, it's just letting that go and being able to accept that it's okay, and I don't need to hold on to it because I don't know. That's what I've noticed. A lot of things of the pain comes from not knowing or understanding like where people sit in that with the grief. And so, like I said, these medicines have helped me realize that it's a part of it, and being able to take it on, just I tell people like anything, sometimes things are hard, sometimes things aren't the best, but you continually to work at it. I feel like there's a process to where people can learn to accept grief and learn to move on with it, because I know a lot of people, they still have a lot of grief, and they're still stuck, or they're going through things mentally, physically, and spiritually because of that grief. And so, yeah, I believe the medicine, it just helps people see it for what it is, and it gives, I think, people the courage to face it, because it's right there. Like, if you're on medicine and you're sitting in front of a fire and you see your loved one, or you feel the presence of your loved one, or you give them acknowledgement of them passing on, or whatever it may be, to me, I feel like that's way better than some people who never even, I know some people that don't go to funerals, or some people had work, or some people had this, some people had that, and they couldn't even go see their loved one, or, they just can't have in their time. So to me, I think, just being able to move with that grief and through the medicine, I think it's a powerful tool, because I know people could pay hundreds of thousands for psychotherapy or go to psychologists and still, have a lot of issues. And I know it's not just grief, but I know people do go to psychologists for grief, and they get therapy for grief and things of that nature. So I think, this medicine is a beautiful tool for people to come one-on-one with that and embrace it, rather than it being this like mystery, or being this like shroud of darkness, when it's like it's going to happen to all of us. And it's good to be equipped how to deal with it, rather than to destroy it, because I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, obviously, yes, there's horrible ways to die, but in the end, it's part of the whole reason of living. It's part of our whole cycle. You can't live without dying. You can't die without living. So it's like, you got to go through it, and that's where I think the medicine helps with that.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And what I received is like the medicine experience creates a softness where there's not so much resistance to maybe the death process or the cyclical nature of our being. And when we can receive and embrace grief as maybe a fleeting or passing experience, that's actually what allows it to move rather than get stuck and weighted and shift our persona to be really identified or in rejection of that weight that we feel. So thank you for sharing about that. And I feel like we were just mentioning how it is cyclical. It is natural to experience these fluctuations in the human experience, like emotionally or physically, maybe spiritually. And so I imagine that you have some sort of perspective that as we relate more closely to spirit or the earth, that we can have a more empowered relationship to things like grief or other aspects of the human emotional range. Is there anything that you would like to share about how relating to nature or the earth is supportive?
Yeah, definitely. I've worked with a lot of different people from natives, non-natives, special force veterans, UFC, NFL veterans, all walks of life, actually. And a lot of these guys are psychedelic coaches. They do retreats, they run retreats, they have programs, and it's kind of cool to see them kind of tap in more with the nature side, or kind of when I hear them express of like, man, like I've traveled all over the world, and this fire right here, this space right here, like this is something. And to me, that's what I believe is, like I keep saying, with the nature, because like I said, everyone can build temples, everyone can do this, and have a good word salad, I like to say. People like to talk real good and make it sound real good to where you're like really hooked and you really just can't get away from it. But the way that I see it, is the fact of like it's real to be natural. Like it's in all of us, it's in all of us to be more connected to the fire, or more connected to the air, more connected to the water, to anything. And so it's kind of cool, like I said, to see that coming, because that's what I think that the whole psychedelic space is lacking, is the true guidance to teach someone to connect, to teach someone how to really get down and feel like they're a part of this, and to feel connected, and to feel like they can get something out of it. Because like I said, I've had people do ketamine and ayahuasca and iboga, and after they go through their treatments, I've noticed that they're not necessarily spiraling, but it's like they hit a brick wall. They're kind of like, oh, well, what do I do next? Do I got to go do more coaching? Do I got to do more integration? Do I got to go do more ketamine? Do I got to go do more ayahuasca? Do I got to go do more MDMA? Do I got to go do... And to me, I'm like, whoa, is this space not creating more addictions or more habits for people? Even though people want to say, oh, I'm getting healing. It's like, dude, if you got a microdose every day, 2 times a day, or twice a day, all 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 3 weeks, whatever the cycle is, it's like, isn't that not a habit or an addiction or a form of a habit being formed? Because the way I see it is, if you're to have 2 to 5 big ceremonies a year, I would rather have someone that than to be like, hey man, here's this microdose regimen, and then we're going to do a Zoom call, and then we're going to get your journal, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do this and do that. But it's like, I feel like a lot of those people, they're not necessarily getting what they're getting, but when they express themselves to other people in the community, it sounds good. It's like, oh man, I'm a coach, I'm an integration, I did this 10-week course, I got a dang plaque, and for me, I'm like, but where's the foundation of the earth, of the creation, of the spirit? It's like anyone can go do a course and take a couple Zoom calls and be like, yeah, I'm a certified coach. But it's like, I always tell people, well, where's the nature? Where's creation? Where's, the spirit? And a lot of people don't know how to answer that, because I feel like a lot of people don't really know. And it's okay. I didn't know before I got into what I knew. I wanted to play football. I wanted to use football as an avenue to reach to people on the reservation and just people in general, to say I made it out the res and there's better things. But now I feel like it's better to be like, hey, my culture, my people, our people, you could do good things, because myself, and I've been all over with this, whether it's, just had a feature in CBS Sports. It's like we had chances with HBO and Viceland, but they were they were just invasive, and I didn't like how they acted, so I turned it down. I've had a lot of things happen, and so to me, it's like, it's not because some people on the res, they might be like, well, that's a drug, or that's a this, or this is that, or that is this, and I'm telling people, like, I'm living proof outside of the culture aspect, and that we have it, and it's on our rocks. I always tell people, like, let's say all of it wasn't even true. Let's just say the rock wasn't real. Let's just say the stories weren't real. I'm real. I'm doing it. I'm here as a native who's doing it in general in real time. This isn't a story of someone from the past, or this isn't Marina Sabina. I let a lot of people talk about Marina Sabina and this, and I'm like, well, you got to be ignorant to think the natives weren't doing any medicine or any type of psychedelics or mind-altering things here, especially when you've been living here for hundreds of thousands of years. And so it's kind of cool to, like I said, to be able to bridge that and show people, like, the nature is the biggest, I think, core concept to what people need, because I feel like if you don't have that, it's just going to be like business exchanges. Everyone's going to be like, man, I need to make 6 figures. I need to be a coach. I'm going to have retreats. I'm going to have people. I'm going to have calls. And then it's like some people only want to help people's businesses out by basically giving them, economy through money, or leveraging their money. And to me, I'm like, where's the healing in that? Where's the nature in that? If I got to pay you first to get help, like if I'm going to, let's just say I was going to commit suicide and I had to pay $5+ grand to go do a treatment or go to Oregon or go anywhere that charges that, it's like, what if I didn't have that? What if I have a job and I can't leave my family? I have kids. I have all these things, responsibilities, and it's like, I can't just leave. So it's like, what do you do for that? And to me, it's like, probably hurt myself, and that goes for other people whether it's substance abuse, addictions, depression, anxiety. It's like, not everyone's going to be able to afford that, to me, when these people talk, it's like, who are you talking to? Because it's not talking to the common people. You're not talking to the regular people who really need this medicine or who are truly suffering from PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, you name it. Like, and I see it in all the aspects of psychedelics, whether it's fighters, veterans, BIPOC, LGBTQ. It's like everyone is leveraging their audience to their specific audience. And for me, I'm like, I'd rather work with everybody. I'd want everyone. That's why it's Church of the People. It's not Church of the Fighters, not Church of the Veterans. It's not Church of this. We're all people. And that's where I want, like, the psychedelic space to see everyone's conning everyone in a sense. You know what I mean? It's like, you can sit here and tell me it's good, but it's like, what does that do for my spirit? What does that do for me as who I am? It's like, cool, you want some money, you want to look good, but it's like, what if I'm in dire need of spirit? What if I'm in dire need of connection? Like, what if I don't need that ketamine or that MDMA? And that's why I believe the mushrooms are the more universal catalyst to nature. You know what I mean? Because it's like, you don't have to do this, or you don't have to do that, or it's not going to stop your heart, or it's not going to do this, it's not going to do that. You're not, you know what I mean? And that's what scares me too about a lot of these substances, is like, they're all synthetic, and to me, it's like, people want to say, yeah, that's good. If you got good healing in synthetics, I'm not downplaying your experience, but the nature of these medicines, I think, need to be expressed more and understood more, because, like I said, it's just all business. That's all I see everything is. It's just business. Everyone's trying to make a good business, and it's like, who's that going to help, Like, and that's where I think, like you're saying with the nature, I think that's the core concept. That's why, like with the church, it's free. Everything we do is free. We don't ever charge anybody. We don't ever make people have to pay a fee, or, I've heard some of these places make you do 10% of your check, and I'm like, there's some craziness going on out there with, like, this so-called healing, and I'm like, I don't know how much healing it is if everyone's kind of in limbo land or kind of just walking around the same track, and it's not a bad thing, but to me, I'm like, we should all get out of this and connect more with each other, with nature. I feel like if we're all to be on a nature side around, let's say we're all around a fire for nature, I feel like that's going to go farther than if we're all like, hey, how can we all, like, make good money? How can we all get more clientele? Like, You know what I mean? Like, use Chat GPT for that. I don't know. People do everything. You know what I mean? It's like, do all that. You know, but for me, it's like I want to connect with people and get this to the people, and even the rich people. It's like, shit, nature is not going to hurt your resume. You know what I mean? If you're a top dog psychedelic organization and you throw representing nature on there, I don't think it's going to hurt you. I don't think it's going to hurt your clientele or your message. Like, if anything, I feel like it's going to boost the message if it's done in a strategic way to show people of how nature is the boss, in a sense. You know, not to say, you know, these guys don't have good intentions, because I know some of these people in the industry, and I know some of them do have good intentions, but it's like, if you're leaving my spirit behind, I don't know how much I could trust you. Or if I have to pay you just to even conversate with you, it's like, I don't know how much of a truth and healing that is, you know?
Yeah. I totally receive you, and what I receive from that is there's this observation you're making, I'm making it, we're all making it in the space where people are outsourcing in a way that isn't regenerative or actually connecting them to their own spirituality or relationship to something larger than themselves. And that can be really disturbing and twisted when we see people reaching because they think it's the thing that they need outside of themselves to create fulfillment or wholeness or healing. And so I feel what you're describing and what I fully support is people coming to that clarity and that connection from within themselves. And maybe it's the psilocybin or the peyote or the fire that leads them there. But once that's found, it doesn't get lost because there's no going back. And there may be moments of lack or scarcity or feeling like a piece is missing, but when we have that embodied relationship to spirit, we're reminded every time that we're not alone and that we are inherently whole. And so I feel like something I want to acknowledge is the freedom that it does allow for someone to build a relationship to nature. And like, I personally try to eat all of my meals outside. And like, that in itself is an act that people can begin to incorporate, because I also have the impulse to look at my laptop while I eat a meal. And I'm aware of that within myself. And a lot of people ask me if I suggest psychedelics for them or for everybody. And my authentic answer is no. My egoic answer is yes. But what I do want to encourage everyone to build a relationship to is nature and the breath. And the word inspiration was really coming through while you were speaking, because to me, inspiration is bringing in spirit. And what we see in our culture and in our society is people are merely uninspired by life. They don't have community. They don't feel purpose. They don't understand the value that they're contributing because there's lack of relationship to something larger. And so I feel your inspiration in the work that you do. And I want to better understand the space that you hold. And I've heard you talk about fire a couple times. So will you come into detail of what the church experience of sacrament looks and feels like, or at least the parts that you're most inspired to share with us?
Yeah, I think the whole experience, because it's like, you know, if you actually show up, it's all hands-on, whether, you know, we go up to the mountain, we collect the cedar, we stop by like the springs and stuff up there, and then come down, and sage grows all over everywhere, so we have people just go naturally pick their own sage and get their own little bundles, and then we have people help set it up, you know. So I just tell people, like, for people who are new, it's like you're already jumping in a communal effort, you know. You're already like, hey man, can you help me put this up, or you think you can get this wood, or you think so it's like everyone's already getting compartmentalized, however you say it, and just spaces of, like I said, being part of community, and people are filling roles that are all executing the main goal, which is to set up the Wamkish, to get the medicine, and then to get ready to go and pray and to go sit by that fire and be on the Mother Earth, you know. Because I always tell people, like, yeah, you know, we don't, outside of our poles and our canvas tarps, it's like you're right there on the ground, you know, and then there's a fire right there in the middle, and the fire just gets bigger and bigger as the night progresses. You know, we have a whole side of wood, so it's like we'll go from 9 p.m. to about 5 a.m. and then after that we'll take it down and we'll go sweat. You know, as I tell people, after a long night of, you know, going through the medicine and, you know, going through all that, you know, deep diving, you know, it's good to kind of release with a sweat, you know, whether it's just breathing or just talking with other people about their experiences, or kind of being like, hey, you know, did you happen to go through this, or how was this experience? Or some people just even ask questions. So it's kind of cool to have questions, and, you know, and then in that time, you know, we go in and we heat up the rocks, and then we pray and we cleanse. But yeah, I just think the whole experience, like I said, just from the fire, the medicine, even just engaging around the fire, around earth things, like for instance, when we conversate in there after, sometimes we go through like our prayers and whatnot, we'll just talk about things like, you know, the water, or we'll talk about like the air, or just certain destructions on the earth. And it's kind of cool to see everyone kind of relating on, you know, not just destruction, but the coming together of what we can do, or the possibilities of like, you know, maybe we could do something together, as far as like if we got something good going and we want to help each other. This is a place to do it, you know, as far as healing and releasing and reconnecting, but also planning how to get other people to reconnect, release, grow, and learn about these things. Like I said, other people have different attributes, whether, you know, somebody's in herbalism, someone does yoga, someone's a welder, someone's a Navy SEAL. There's just many things, right? So that's where I think it's kind of cool to see all the people come together and be around a natural setting. Because I feel like when people go to other places, and this is not to talk bad, but I just feel like some people kind of feel like they need to expect things. 'Cause they're like, oh, I paid for this, or, you know, where are my amenities at, or, you know, where's this, or they kind of, you know, and I know that. I know people judge spaces like that. I see when they come to my church, and I'm like, this ain't no 5-star resort, man. This is a down-to-earth space. You know, I always tell people, you know, it's better to learn on the mother. You know, you're not going to learn too much in silk sheets at a, you know, nice Airbnb or whatever people do at their retreats. But either way, that's what I believe is the core concept of just being involved in that. Because I feel like not a lot of people, for one, I know a lot of people don't have a lot of Native American friends. And for two, it's like I know a lot of people don't get involved in a true ceremony, especially locally, without having to like leave the land here, like got to go down south or got to go here. So I think it's kind of cool to just give people that experience, because I think a lot of people are, they want it, you know, they want that ceremony, or they want to be around something authentic. You know, I know a lot of people like authenticity, and I think that's also what we bring to the table. You know, it's not just a, you know, I feel like a lot of people put on a good show, but it's like, as far as what we do, it's like we, you know, like we're talking about, we bring that nature. And that's what I think people dig. You know, people really dig it, you know, because they can see the fire, they can feel the air around them, they can see their prayers, you know, they can see patterns, different colors, you know, many stories in there. But it's just cool to have that space for where people can naturally do it, you know, because that's what I think. I think that's what also people like too, is they can organically grow without me like throwing all these things at you that you got to do, or like telling you to read this book or read that book or read this article, or maybe you should listen to this person talk about mushrooms. Maybe you should listen to that person. It's like, no, it's all you. And that's what I like about it, is like, you know, it's not me telling you, it's the earth, it's the fire, it's creator, it's Mother Earth. And so to me, I think that's one of the best gifts someone can have, you know, because it's like, why wouldn't you want to be spiritually connected to the higher power and, you know, gain knowledge and understanding and wisdom and teachings? I mean, that's all they talk about in these books, you know, these sacred books, you know, all these people trying to attain sacred knowledge and the keys to life and whatever, right? So to me, I'm like, well, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and something else that I feel you were just talking about, being around the fire and feeling the breeze and feeling the earth under you, is the medicine space that you're holding at your church is really inviting a felt experience of the human's experience in relationship to the earth. And like, I know for myself personally, when it's windy, I'm like, oh my, I like hate the wind. I like can barely go outside. I'm like projecting my frustration onto the wind, victim to the wind, like I can't leave my house, right? And so it's a totally different ceremony consciousness to relate to a windy day, let alone in an altered state on medicine, connecting to the earth in a way that is soft and receptive and finding that unity.
It's funny you say that about the space, because that's what I think what it really is. Because I always tell people, outside of psychedelics and whatnot, we call it the Wamkish, where we go and do the medicine. It means big house. So I always tell people, even before what I do, it's like people just had their life experiences in there. Whether someone was born in there, someone had like puberty right ceremonies in there, whether they had ceremonies for sickness, ceremonies for other things. They had other ceremonies in there. And then I always tell people, we cremated too. So our people, we cremated. And so I always tell people, they would either do it in there or they would do it outside. And I always tell people, any of those events, you don't even got to be on any medicine. You know, if you see a child born in front of you, it's going to change you. You see your kids go through puberty right ceremonies to become a man and a woman, it's going to change you. You see your kids get married ceremonially, not like by the church and everything, but like a traditional native ceremony wedding, it's going to change you. Life's ups and downs and struggles within your own family, it's going to change you. When you see your loved one die, and then if you have the grit to actually see the ceremony when they cremate, that's going to change you. And so I always tell people it's like the circle of life. So now you go into that Wamkish and you take the medicine. Now I tell people it's like a catalyst to all that. So it's like all that's going to now be concentrated into one. And it's not my life, it's your life, because it's not just me in there, you're in there. So I always tell people it's like just a big concentration of your life, and it's up to you to decide what you want to do, and I always tell people, like, not everyone gets that choice, some people, you gotta go to work, you gotta go to school, you gotta get your degree, you gotta do this, and I know a lot of people don't want to do that, I know a lot of people don't want to do this. I got a brother who went to Brown, transferred to Stanford, and now he's like, I don't know. And it's like got all paid for because our tribe will pay for any school we go to. But that's what I'm getting at. It's just, people don't feel secure with that. It tears them up. It destroys them. It go through a lot of hell in those situations of life. And so that's where I think with what we're doing here, it gives people a true meaning and a true onset to who they are. And I feel like that's also a reason why people are hurt too, because they've never, I guess, been told who they truly are outside of, like I said, you need to get a job, you need to have a house, you need to make this amount of income to feel comfortable, or you need to do this, you need to do that, or you need to try this, or you need to go here. And so to me, I feel like that's part of it too, is when people get a true sense of like where they're supposed to go, or that their experience led up to them progressing forward in a good way, and learning that they have a true reason to be here and a true reason to be alive, or to be a dad, or to be a son, or to be a mother, or any of those categories of what people want to think. I feel like it gives people true meaning, and I think that's when people feel more wholesome, because they know who they are and they know what they need to do, rather than just like running with their head cut off, in a sense, like, oh man, oh man, oh man. It's like, it doesn't need to be like that, especially if we have these tools that can slow us down and bring us back to what we need to do. Because I feel like in all that chaos, that's what it is. It's just like, and it's like, man, it's okay. I'm okay. Like, it's all right. Like, that was crazy. But life is crazy. You don't even need to do psychedelics, and life is crazy. So it's like, I think that gives people an edge, and a good edge, because I think people should see that instead of always kind of beating around the bush about their life. It's like, why wouldn't you want to know your life in a whole way? I feel like it's better to know yourself than to be like patchy, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying that there's reason why natives and indigenous people have puberty right ceremonies, and they have things because it gives people their role, it gives them their identity. And I'm not talking like identity, like man or woman name, things like that, but I'm just saying like it gives you your role. You see who you are and what you need to be. And to me, I feel like that's really powerful, and we need that more. And I think that's also what the church gives, human beings, is that space to be like, all right, like I did it all. I fucking I talk to like SEALs or other people I've been there, like I've been all over the world. I've done this, I've done that. And it's like, I think it's cool now that to see them like see something healthy for them, see them like I said, oh man, I got reasons to live. I got reasons to be alive. It's good to be alive. It's good to be a dad. It's good to have a wife, to have kids. It's good to wake up every morning, and so that to me, I think that is very important, to giving people that space and letting people get to that height in consciousness, because that's what I believe it is. It's a heightened consciousness. It's like going up to the top and then coming back down, and I don't think it's a bad thing. It's like going up to the top, you get what you need to get, and then you come back down and you do what you got to do. And so that's where I think, just that whole space and people getting to that heightened consciousness, I think it is part of us, and it should be expressed more. I've always noticed through like religion and everything, they're always like, don't do this, don't do that. And I'm like, isn't it our God-given right to find out who we are and explore the realms of consciousness and our connection? And to me, that is part of this. That is what we're doing, and that's where I think the whole conversation of tonight is, that's where the nature comes in. You want to find out who you really are, tap into the earth, talk to Creator. I always feel like, they're not going to lie to you. Your friends can gas you up. People can talk good about you. People can even just look at you how you're dressed and think you're successful, think you're good, think you have all your things in balance. But that's why I like what we do at the church, because it's like no one's going to lie to you but yourself. And I think that's good for people to see that, because like I said, a lot of people go around these spaces too, and I've noticed like I said, they're getting gassed up or they're being put on a pedestal. Not a bad thing, but I think everyone should humble themselves and see that we're all kind of babies in a sense in this space, and we should more work together instead of like, oh man, my organization's better, or we got more here, we got more there. And I'm not saying it's all that, but that's what I see. I don't see everybody unifying. I don't see all the big organizations like rushing to get all the people together. So it's like, I think that's where we can come in with the church and just everyone else too who has connections or communities that are looking to be more connected or more wholesome with nature.
Yeah, totally. I feel like this community component that you've been mentioning is really what our culture and society is lacking. And that's really what leads people in that trajectory of you go to school, you get a job, you work for a living, because there is a disconnect from being held in community resource. And I feel like you really have that in your family, in your church, in your tribe. And that's beautiful, and I really hope that more humans and people get to experience that so they can feel safe to start to explore the depths of their being and to develop a pure connection to source energy or to Creator, because that's, in my perspective, what actually empowers the human's creative potential, is to have that relationship to something larger. I just want to share like my little compass and framework in which I exist in the human experience. I think it will resonate with you and would love to hear otherwise. But I like what you said, like, yeah, you might be gassed up or you might be put on a pedestal, not bad or wrong, and not a judgment. But we are acknowledging that there are positions or personas we may take on that are disconnected from source. And so it's not a judgment or a wrongness, but merely a point of reference where we can discover where connection can expand. And to me, it's through the heart, and the heart is where we feel compassion and also where we connect to service. And most of the people, the corporations out there striving to make money, are highly disconnected from the heart. They're not actually humbled in service or compassion for humanity. And in my perspective, therefore disconnected from Creator. And I believe that, again, our creationship will be empowered as we do have that line of communication supported by psychedelics or otherwise. So I just wanted to offer that and see if you had any thing to share, because I feel your heart in what you're talking about. But tell me more about the heart space and the work that you do.
I feel like a lot of it to do with the heart, like you're saying. It's it's very heartless, you know. And like I said, on top of that, you know, it's not like any school. I mean, not that I know of, at least growing up from a little kid to like adolescent years, it's like none of them really teach you how to connect to the earth, you know, or how to be affiliated with, you know, Creator and Mother Earth in that sense. You know, I always tell people it's more than just words. It's more than just saying, yeah, the earth is our mother, the earth is sacred, the earth is, you know, it's like, no. There's a lot more to it than that. And so for me, I just believe they don't know, you know, and that lack of, and I'm not trying to let them off the hook, but that lack of not knowing is the reason why they're heartless, or the reason why the disconnect is there, because they just don't know, you know. And I feel like this isn't always the case, but I feel like there are cases amongst all of that business, big elites, whatever. I feel like there's still something in them that like they do want to connect. And like you're saying earlier, you know, I'm taking it out on the wind, you know, I'm taking it out. So I feel like they take it out too, whether it's on people, politics, corporations, just many things, you know. It's like if you're not connected, like chances are your stuff's going to rub off somewhere, you know, or you're going to end up teaching the greater mass of people to be just like you in a sense, which is kind of heartless, disconnected, and not humble to the fact that we're greater than just destroying the earth or creating things from extracting resources. Because anything that is here is usually extracted, you know, whether it's copper, platinum, gold, you know, cobalt, nickel, you name it, they're all in everything from lights to computers to phones, circuit boards, you name it. So again, it's back to the fact of that they don't know, and I think that's part of it, is just not knowing. Because like for me, before I didn't know, it was like, how could I even care? You know, how could I even care if I wasn't even brought to the attention of caring? If you know, it's kind of like when someone will tell you like, oh, you're not listening to me, and sometimes it's like you don't hear it, but then when you do, it's like, oh man, I'm not listening. You know, I need to listen. I should listen. And that's where I feel like that's what the key needs to be to, like you're saying, these big people or corporations or things that are just heartless. Because like I said, it is a genuine lack of spirit, you know. Because I feel like if you did, not saying you're gonna save the world, but the amount of money and resources that every mega corporation has in the world, it's like could have helped the world out a long time ago. Like not even all this talk, it's like all that money, all that resources like spent on satellites, and could have just done it already. You didn't even need a heart, you could have just did it and still made billions and trillions of dollars. So to me, I feel like it's just true fact of there is no connection there. Because I hate to believe there is, and then they continue to put all of our families at risk, you know, whether it's our air, our water, our land, our food, our minds, our bodies, our spirits. It's kind of crazy that they put all of our life support systems at risk and kind of don't even care, because nothing's changing. Nothing's changing from the amount of pollution, the amount of resources being pulled out, the amount of war. It's all still going on. And so like I keep saying, I believe that they don't have that connection. And I feel like it's up to us, the people. They're the people too, but I think they're heartless, and I feel like it's up to us that have a heart, that do believe in spirit, that do believe in community, that believe in truth of helping people. I think we got the bigger odds on our end, because I think there's genuinely more people that want to do good. It's just the predicaments that the system puts on us, and I think that's where, you know, people feel helpless, or they feel weak, or they can't contribute, or they don't have enough to contribute. But a bunch of people coming together for water, air, land, you know, all the good things. I think it's beautiful. I mean, you think of all those strikes they did, like the writers' strikes and all that. I'm like, dang, imagine if all the people came together for water, or came together for air, or true equality. You know, it's like, oh, you got all these people doing, oh man, they're going to throw out, you know, the writers and this and that. It's like, we need water, we need air, we need community, we need true people, because these writers, they're just going to get washed up and used anyway. These guys don't care about them more than the fact that they're bringing in money to their corporations. But it's like, they don't care about that human. They don't care about that human unless they're doing work or they're bringing them money. And so I think that, we're in the better end as far as the people, because we do have hearts, and there are people out there that I think are striving to find the good in people and open that space up for people. At least I'm trying to. I grew up a lot just being mad, kind of having anger. And I still hear it from people. It's kind of sad. Like, I've had some people come to my ceremonies and they're like, "You're so angry." And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, I get it that you can sit there and stereotypically like place that on me. It's like the easiest way to like discredit my feelings or discredit how I truly feel as an indigenous person. It's so easy to be like, "Yeah, you're angry." It's like, yeah, man, I kind of am, because what happened to my people is happening to everybody in this country now. It's not just us that had bad experience. There are people in America that aren't eating, don't have homes, that thrown out as trash, that are overdosing, that are being killed. There's so many things going on. So to me, I'm like, I'm not angry at anything more than the fact that we're letting this happen as people. We're letting all this destruction and all this chaos. It's like, who funds all these corporations? A lot of it is us, and that's where, I like how you were saying earlier about like, people coming together on a wholesome nature base and progressing into better progress, rather than, oh, we need more supercomputers, we need more iPhones, we need more Dell processors. It's like, we need more people, like you said, with hearts that want to help people and genuinely come together outside of like destroying things,
And I also feel there is strategy to develop and collaborate on to utilize technology to share this message, and that it doesn't actually need to be separate, but there is an integration to discover of how we can utilize global communication to bring others to this degree of conscious awareness. And I totally feel you, particularly like on this piece or narration that someone may say that you are angry. And I personally have been in a deep reclamation of anger and rage, and I think it's really vital for people to integrate that aspect of the human experience. And I receive you when you say like it's not about you and your people in your community, it's about the greater people of humanity, and that it is also, in my perspective, our God-given right to be angry, just as it is to feel ecstasy or joy or happiness. Like, the full range is what we're here to experience, and I think the medicine can bring us to that realization, and we'll forget and we'll be reminded, and whether that's between each other and community or by the medicine.
I was just going to say, I think that's part of it too, is like I said, a lot of people aren't used to necessarily hearing a native break down their perspective to them, because I've noticed a lot of, so-called Americans, are very egotistic and very selfish to believe like not only the history of this country, but just because they thought it or they felt it, that it's just it. That's how it is, when it's like, dude, we have actual history on this land, not just like what people think. Like, we actually formed, whether it was the Constitution, whether it was all the treaties we formed with, the presidents and the different generals and different armies. I always tell people, like, it takes a lot of sophistication to go from being warlike to saying, hey, we're going to put that aside and we're going to make a treaty here because we all got kids and we all want to, live peacefully. We already seen that we could kill each other, but it's like, hey, we both got kids, we got families, we want to live. So it's like, I say that took a lot of sophistication. That took a lot of skill, because I just tell people, you could train kids to kill people. Look at what's going on in different wars in the world, but it's like to train someone who's been through what they've been through and to say, hey, let's make a good deal here. Let's do something here. And then to know, like, all this stuff wasn't even, every treaty was like not even honored. I always tell people, if the United States broke a treaty right now with any country, it'd be war. So it's like, oh, just because we were natives, all of a sudden our treaties are less different. That's why they call this land unceded territory, because it's like, once you void those treaties, every amenity is basically void. So it's like, that's why they always say this is stolen land, because it's like, you broke the treaties, so all of it's void. You know what I mean? But outside of that, what I'm trying to get at is most people don't hear that it's wrong A lot of people think all this is good, money, progress, machine. Everyone's like, oh man, that new iPhone is legit. You guys see that on TV. Everyone. I always feel like a majority of people, they say that they're for or against it, but it's like a lot of people don't. They like it. Like I said earlier, they believe that's the thing. That's the thing of what they were raised upon. That's what they were seen in the world. But it's like a native knows this is all a lie. The native knows that this is all here to manipulate and to take and distill your essence. I mean, look at how many people are bankrupt and broke and struggling just to get these products, or just to want to be in the vicinity of these products, or to be like, hey, look at this. And so to me, I think that's where people kind of get it confused too, and then they don't want to hear it because they're like, just like if I told people about like, the American flag, if I told people like, natives understand it. For instance, like natives, they like to run it upside down because it's like a nation in distress. That's what they say when the flag's upside down. It's in distress, and that's where I try to tell people like, yeah, like it's been in distress. Like ever since the ships came, all the people here been in distress, not just natives, but every ethnicity that's come to this land has been in distress, unless you're rich, AKA you did something dirty or you took some. I always tell people a lot of families are rich off the natives' fields, whether it's oil, whether it's minerals, whether it's, you seen that movie Kills of the Flower Moon. It's like, think of all the other resources from lumber to water to oil, and that's kind of where I say, like, you go up to some oil fields and people will be like, I make $180,000 a year. This is my God-given right to take this oil. This is my right. This oil pays for my family. What are you talking about? This is my God-given right. And I'm like, yeah, look how many people died once you pulled that oil out. It's like in our culture, we were never supposed to pull that out of the ground. But once you guys started pulling it out, look at all these wars. Look at how many humans have died just because you took the oil out, And so, like I keep saying, I think people need to hear more that it's wrong, because a lot of people are like, nah, it's good. I love that. It's my life. It's my family. It's like, yeah, the cost of what? Cost of everybody else's family while you get to live on this high horse. You're polluting the rivers. You're destroying the earth, and you're teaching your kids that's a good thing because you make 180,000 plus a year with bonuses on the oil rigs, or you're over here tapping this water and stealing it while all these other people don't have water, or this city's all dried out. And so to me, I'm just like, I think people need to hear it more, but they look at me and they're like, you're angry. And I'm like, how am I angry? Because I'm telling you, you're doing something wrong. You're going to say I'm angry because I'm saying, hey, that's wrong. Like, I'd want someone to tell me I'm wrong in a sense, and not in an egotistic or idealistic way like that. But if someone's really in the wrong, they should be told, because it ripples down to all of us, and that's kind of where I keep saying I think people need to hear it and stop looking at a native as if like we're here to be angry, or we're here to like destroy things, or shut people's messages down. It's not anything of that. It's just saying we're all people. We need to connect and take care of the earth because we're all here. It's not just natives here. Look at this room. Look at everywhere. It's all walks of life, and we're all in the same vicinities of the water, the air, the land, our communities. And so that's where I keep saying, we need to come together, and we need to be about nature and put aside all the stupid stuff, because I've noticed that gets us nowhere. I'd rather talk about truth and expanding and seeing what your skills are, where you're coming from, and seeing what we can do for the greater good, not like competition or, things like that. Because that's what I feel. I truly feel that in the psychedelic space. I feel like, a lot of people are just burning people, and they're even burning themselves. But they're like, I don't care because I'm with so-and-so, or I got this coming in, or I'm going to be on this talk, or I'm going to be on this special, but yeah, all in all, just thankful to be a part of it in a good way, and thankful for this space. Thank you for everyone for coming, and I just hope everyone resonated with connecting naturally and wanting to explore earth-based medicines, sacraments, in an organic way. And if you like the synthetic and everything, all to you too. There's nothing wrong if that's what you like and that's what gets you to where you need to go. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but nature's still here and it'll always be here.
Yeah, totally appreciate that. And do you have any tips or suggestions for, say, someone who does have a full life, like they still have their job and they still have their family, and they maybe don't have the resources to take a lot of time away from that to go be in ceremony space? How can they start to connect to Creator and connect to nature now?
Yeah, I would say, it starts off with your own relationship. So I have this thing called Wamkish 101, but we kind of talk about like prior, before, like you're saying, if you don't really do psychedelics or you're too busy, it's like if you do have time, something simple is just going outside. Like before, I always tell people, like what I used to do, I used to wake up at the sunrise and I'd stare at the sun right at the peak before it break, and I would basically just say simple things like, thank you for this day. Thank you for my ability to be here, to see this. Thank you for allowing me to just come here and to want to pray or to want to just give thanks and understanding. I've always told people, go on a hike, like if you can have time, find a hike and just go out to somewhere that you like and breathe and just think about what you want and how you want to engage. I always tell people, like, it's not as hard as people make it, like for me, before I got into psychedelics, that's all I did. I'd either wake up really early, would start praying, I'd go on hikes, or I'd find an ocean and go to shoreline, just sit on the shoreline, wait for the sunset, and I'd just pray, or sometimes I'd wake up at like 3 a.m. because I always say like around that age, I feel like the overall traffic spiritually is a little lower, because you think about everybody at this time, the traffic, and everyone's still going to the store, but it's like 3 a.m. Most people are like laying down, they want their rest for work, the kids, everything's like, so I say when you get up at that time, I say, for me, I used to wake up and just, again, give thanks, gratitude, appreciation, even welcoming in things like, Creator, Mother Earth, I'm lost, I would like some assistance, or what do I need to do to be more engaged or to get the message through, or even just a sense of burning medicines. I don't know how much people are involved with like medicines such as like cedar, sage, rosemary. Those are the ones I really like to use, are like cedar, sage, and rosemary. Those are also good things to use as well, just to, light some medicine and also say a prayer, give thanks, appreciation, and even offerings. So I always tell people, like, if you don't smoke, because like what we do at the Wamkish, we use our tobacco as prayers and smoke and whatnot. But I always tell people, if you don't, you can simply just pinch off a cigarette and pinch out the tobacco in your hand, and you can even give that an offering. Like in the morning, you can wake up, give some tobacco in the morning, give thanks, or like say you're by the ocean, or if you're lighting your medicine, you can always give thanks. I always tell people anywhere, just give tobacco and just give thanks for your journey, give thanks for the land, where you're at, your safety. I always tell people, it's just, you start getting into the rhythm as you start doing it more. You start getting more of a teaching of yourself and prayer and how to be engaged. So I always say, like, I think that's a start for people. And then after that, that's when, you start getting in the medicines and doing what you need to do, whether it's microdose or a fat dose. I mean, I always say take a big dose. I'm not the biggest fan of microdosing. I believe it's somewhat of a placebo, but that's about it. I always say that a big dose, because I say, if I give you 0.05 grams, it's easy for you to say something. But if I give you 10, there's a chance you're gonna know that feeling of a 10 gram versus a 0.05 microgram. You'll definitely know something's going on, and so that's where I think sometimes the microdose can be kind of like a self-motivational thing rather than an actual, like, damn, this thing's hitting. It's like, it's kind of easy to be your own coach in a way, but I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I've seen more results with big doses. I've seen people, I always tell people, not the glass ceiling effect, it's like people punch through and they're like, dang, I'm glad I took that dose. I'm glad I took a big dose, because I've noticed a lot of people, they don't even emphasize big doses, and it's understandable. People don't want to have episodes or possibly, have bad encounters with themselves or whatever. But I can say from doing it, I think it's a pretty good thing to do. I mean, I feel like you can't escape bad experiences when they happen. Like, it's gonna happen. Like, It's not saying you're gonna run through it every time, but I feel like I was just talking to a gentleman earlier in the back. I was just thinking that those experiences are like more of self-realizations, and I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily get that self-realization at the moment. So when they do, it's kind of turns into panic, paranoia, and it's kind of like, oh man, like holy shit, like this is my life. It's like it is your life. Take hold of it, be good, and honor it. Be humble. Pray to Creator Mother Earth and ask for guidance, and it's gonna help, And that's where I think that's where the big doses come in, because it gives people that, like, I need to get my life together and I need to get this right. Or if your life's perfect, it's like, good job.
You can have gratitude for that too. Find the perfection. Right. Yeah. So I feel like you said great stuff about how we can reconnect now. And it is focusing on what's available. That's what I always tell people. But it's like, I really liked what you said. Like, we're so safe. We're so resourced. Like, look at this gorgeous opportunity to come together in community and to have essentially all of our needs are met right now. We're hydrated. We're nourished. And offerings to the land, blowing smoke, these things can become incorporated. And as they do, it becomes a new way of living. And again, there's no going back. Once you find that rhythm, once you find that connection, it is what inspires life. I know for me daily. And I just want to share with this piece on prayer, because a lot of people get a little like twisted or feel like that's far from them. And I feel like it's also the narration of being clunky. Like, I feel awkward right now, and my intention is to connect to something greater than myself. And I don't know if I'm doing it, but I'm going to continue to try to see if it supports me. And if it does feel supportive, I'm going to continue to explore it. And here I am in my prayer. And so I just want to offer that for anyone who may feel like new or intimidated by this practice. Thank you. This has been great. I want to open it to the audience to see if there's any other questions.
You mentioned a lot about destruction of the earth. Like, for example, like hearing the water, I just feel like the water is so effing destroyed right now, the oceans. And I mean, in LA, I think last month I heard that the UCSB discovered that some nuclear waste dumped out the LA coast that they just discovered out there in the 1930s or whatever. So that and the microplastics. So all that, it kind of hurts. It hurts, hearing all that. So how do you deal with that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still deal with it. I mean, seeing the continual destruction, but the way that I've helped myself kind of see through it is just, like I said, knowing that it's bigger than me, for one, and for two, that, as like I was saying earlier on the talk, I think it's going to take a lot of us, like people, to come together and actually put forth our effort, because it's like, who's actually, I mean, yeah, you see your people in the street with a couple posts in it, but it's like, I'm talking like a mad surge of people to where they've actually gone in, whether it's to City Hall or meetings, or even going to the companies, or even requesting hearings, all things like that. I feel like that's kind of where it's going to have to go, is like everyone's going to have to come together, because I feel like if we don't come together, like honestly, I think it's just going to continue, because they're like, what do they care? What do they care? They still want power. They still want gas in their cars. They still want this. So I feel like until we as a people step up and come together on that chance of taking these people, whether it's to court or holding them. So like right now, I'm actually I work with some people out in Arizona. They're fighting the second largest copper mine in America, called Rio Tinto, through BH Billiton. It's called Oak Flat. And they're taking their case to the Supreme Court. And so what I'm thinking also is that the natives can also play, because I always say the natives are federally recognized. So natives can actually take things to federal levels, as far as like having meetings, hearings. So I think, like I keep saying, I think it's going to take a lot of us to come together, and the people that need to just come together and fight it, because without all the people power, I don't think we have anything other than what we're talking about, just the destruction and continual ravishing of our life.
Thank you for what you've shared with us. I think I've been lucky enough to have been involved in a very long time ago with a similar situation where you live and where you grow. So how do we bring that to more people, though? Because I know that you're on a reservation and you have an ability to do this in your church format. But the biggest problem is, that's why we see all these people making money, building empires and all this stuff. It's become a side rail in a way. So how do you do it the traditional way and spread it to more communities without that? Because that's, to me, the biggest, people.
Yeah, I think, at least for myself, how I've gotten to people is just being honest with people and kind of letting people know, like, there's snakes in the grass, basically, and that people, they want to do whatever they want, in a sense, to kind of make their narrative better or act like they're about this way of life or they're about this type of healing or ceremony. So I feel like it's just a matter of just being honest with people, and then also how I think that we don't incorporate so many things. I've noticed a lot of people incorporate many different things, kind of like a buffet in a sense. They mash it all together. And so that's where I think also, too, that's what kind of keeps us from being amongst the whole group, is kind of keeping it small and kind of keeping it amongst the traditions rather than like bringing all these so-called elements of psychedelics in there and trying to make it like it's healing. I think that's a way to do it, is just work with people honestly. And then if people are willing to be a part of the community, I think just moving forward in that way will just basically talk for itself to people. Like if you have your group coming in being honest and natural about healing, and then you got this side that's like, oh, like we're saying, I just want to make money and I just want to do this and that. I think this community would kind of stand out on its own just because it's not going to necessarily be muddled by all this. And I think that it has its own foot in the door because, like I said, it's nature, it's more earth-based, and it's not all this, like I said, word salad and this and that and that and this. It's actual been tested and done by with many people, and so I think that's how you do it. Just be honest, and the group that wants to take it forward to be honest, like you said, unless they come in with some bad intentions or they want to somehow hybrid it or something. I feel like I'm never gonna. I feel like no one can escape that. Like if you're doing something, someone might like it and be like, "Oh, I want to tweak this or take that." So I feel like we're kind of never gonna be out of that. But like we're saying, just to be honest and humble with people is a good way, I think.
How do you get the authenticity of what you do out to more people? This is what I'm really asking.
Like you mean as far as like giving people the message or getting them to the church?
Okay. Sure, both.
Okay, both. Like I said, I mean, through experience, I think, we even got stuff, like I said, whether it's videos or we're in, like double blind, we're in different things. So I think just the fact of, just being here and being involved, I think that's where it stands out. Because like I said, I've been to a lot of psychedelic spaces, and it's like, I never really seen that many indigenous people or people really bring it like I do, if that makes sense. Like they'll be generic, but it's like, I just don't really feel connected to them when they talk. I'm like, oh man, this person really must have looked at a native page where they came, or they must have studied these words or something. They must have them written down. By doing this, just going around. Yeah, exactly. I gotta get out there. Hey, yep.
So a big thing that we were talking about was sort of the consumerism within Western culture, and I guess something that I was thinking about during this speech is the commodification of psychedelic substances inevitable? And as we grow as an industry, how can we keep nature as more of a tenant and keep that in mind as the industry grows as a whole?
Yeah, I think we can't escape greediness. I think there's always gonna be people that are gonna like want more, or they're going to want to tweak it out to get the most out of it or try to patent it, all that. But I feel like the people in the industry who are true, because I've met a couple of them. I think if, like we were saying with what tonight, I think if they bring a core aspect of like nature and nurturing nature rather than just talking about it, but maybe it's how they, gather their supplies, or maybe it's how they make their substrates. Maybe it's how they do this and that. Whatever they do, I feel like I said earlier, if they add nature on that resume and they respect it, nurture it, and be humble with it, I think it'll speak for itself and it'll stand out against a higher consumer-based, medicine or supplement or psychedelic, whatever people want to call it. But I think if people are humble and honest, I think their brand will stand out on its own versus the kind of get in, get out quick type of person, or the person who's cutting corner, whether it's they're using substrate block, they're not using this, they're not using that, or they're using rotten spores. There's so many different things that can happen. So what I'm saying is I think if people just become more humble in nature and band with people like that, I think, they could make anything really good and it'd stand around. Just like, you see products out in the market, ones that are been paid to be put on the top, and then there's some that are down here. But what I'm saying is the ones that work their asses off and put in real work, you can kind of see that and feel that. And I think if the brand represents that within the hearts and the minds of people, heck yeah, I think they'll kick the other guy's ass, because the other guy's just like, I just want your money. But it's like, yeah, we want to help you, and we have results, and we can get you there, not just get your money and make it sound good on a label or have some cool label writing or cool colors. It's like, I think if, the people in the industry took that advice, I think they could excel far beyond the business models, and because they're genuinely helping people and they're giving people a true aspect of healing, And I think if the product represented that, heck yeah. I know I like products that are more natural and humble based rather than the guys that are just, like I said, taking all the resources or, not really sourceful about it or real slimy about it. So, yeah.
So keeping and maintaining integrity throughout the growth of this industry.
Yes.
I have two questions. Can you talk about how many milligrams you like to do and how often, like in a year? And then the second question is, you don't have to answer the second one if there's not enough time, but do we have to reject this modern world, or can we have spirituality in the modern world with the modern technologies? Because, we could leave the planet and go to Mars or something. Why do we have to stay on this Earth? There's a lot more out there. So those are my two questions.
So the first one, I've never necessarily weighed out what I do, but so when I did weigh it out, I weighed it out twice. We had 15 and 30. So I base it off that in a sense. So there'll be times where I'll do 8, times where I do 10. Yeah. Times where I do 15, times where I do 20, I do 22, I do 7. In a year, I could do a lot. Like, I know before I took my break, we had, back in from January to mid-February, we had 4 back-to-back straight ceremonies, and that's every week. So I always tell people, like, when I didn't have my house and stuff that I was moving through, I had them like every week. So it was like, it's a lot, a couple grams. Like I said, 7 here, 10 here, 15 here, 20 here, 3 here. It all varies, and it's all a lot. And then the second question, I wouldn't necessarily say you have to reject the world, because I tell people, I'm living, I live a good life. I still watch TV. I still get on my phone. I play games, whatever, I don't think that's the case. I think it's just like people deliberately not wanting to engage that spirituality more so. Not saying that, they're wrong, whatever. It's just that I think that it's a choice, and a lot of people are just choosing to be lazy about it, because it is a lot of work to be spiritual and to be engaged every day within a spiritual practice and the things, whether, like I was saying, giving offerings and finding places to pray. And it's a lot, you have to make time in yourself in your day. And as far as this earth, I think that's kind of funny, because it's like, if we did what we did to this planet, why are we going to make Mars any better? If this is what we've done here, why all of a sudden Mars is just going to be utopia? If this is how we treat this planet, why would that planet be treated any better? If this is the outcome of progress and all the stuff, science and everything that people want to say is progress, it's like, well, how's that world going to look if this is the progress we have today? You know, it's like we're gonna have everyone starving on Mars. You're gonna have water problems. You're gonna have, and on top of that, that planet doesn't even have the life support systems that this planet has. So to me, I'm like, that's kind of dumb. You know, it's like getting something nice and throwing it away, and then acting like because you bought something else, it's just gonna be better. When it's like, you had it already. You know, you had that, the best place to live. You know, you don't have to wear a helmet. You don't have to haul all this equipment there. You don't have to fly millions of miles and possibly die on the way there. Like, there's just so many things that could happen even before getting there. You know, first they have to get there and do it. But what I'm saying is, I just don't believe that they're going to make that planet any better if this is what they did here.
You mentioned doing the all-night journey by the fire and then doing the sweat. Is that all left to spirit as well? Because having done sweats and in that context, that's a lot of hours. So I want your perspective on that.
Yeah, so the whole ceremony is about a day and a half, almost 2 days. Let's say we started on Friday. We would end like Saturday around like 3, 4, whatever. But yeah, I would say a little bit of both. You know, it's leaving it up to spirit. But I would say it's good to meet yourself halfway. You know, like if you're gonna say to Creator, Mother Earth, this is what needs to be done, or what you need help with, or what you're seeking for, it's like, well, you should also do your part to meet that. You know what I mean? And that's where I say I think it's both of giving it up to spirit, but also knowing you have work to do too as a person and who you are, and that, you know, if you want that to happen, it wouldn't hurt to meet Creator halfway within the process of your prayer or your wants, your needs, or anything in your life. So I would say that I think it's both. You know, I think it's leaving up to spirit, but also trying to meet up with spirit to say, hey, I've done what I've done to meet myself here. You know, this is where I want to be, and that's where I think.
Where I was coming from was like they both can be their own psychedelic experience.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've had people who didn't even come through the Wamkish and just come to sweat, and they're like, man, I felt, like you said, a psychedelic experience, or just out of body, or just even being themselves more, or just being in darkness. So no, I understand what you're saying.
So real quick, I just want to plug the fact that you're part of Decriminalize Nature. So we've had Larry Norris here a couple times. We're big fans of the work. So I just want to know, you're a board member, and just give them a plug. Like, this is going on video. So I just want to make sure there's a little something for Decrim Nature, because they're doing fantastic work. I think they've decriminalized entheogenic plants and fungi in about maybe like 18 or 19 cities nationwide. And we're trying to do that here in Santa Barbara as well.
Yeah, I definitely am proud to be on the work. That's actually what got me more heavily involved with more of communities, being part of DN. And, you know, I'm trying to work with some people down in La Jolla area to get the city of La Jolla in there as well. And no, I think that power to the people, you know, like I said, you have all these corporations that are trying to control dosage, settings, criteria. So I always say, you know, it's like DN, you know, it's the community, you know, community up, you know, it's not bottom down, it's more the community, you know, to the people. And that's where I think it needs to be, as far as like no big corporation trying to tell you how you should heal or what you need to do. You know, I think it's more of, like I said earlier, it's more of us as a community to decide that and to see where we stand, as far as like, it's our God-given right to our consciousness and to our expansion within psychedelics, earth-based medicines, entheogens. And these corporations don't have no right to tell any of us how to take it or what to do or how to do it, when it's our God-given right to expand our consciousness, to expand our communities, and just to overall expand our being as people.
Awesome. Well, thank you, audience. That was such a engaged audience Q&A. I really appreciate when that flows in that way. Well, I just want to thank you all for being with us tonight, and thank you, Shane, for bringing your voice to the space. And I just want to encourage you all to join us again at another time for another guest or configuration of the District House. And if people want to connect with you and the church, you're available to be connected with after we close out. And thank you so much for making the journey to Santa Barbara. He just sat in traffic for almost 4 hours to get here, so extra gratitude.